on, my home studio engineers? Welcome back for day 8 on this 30-day journey to better home studio mixes, more polished home studio mixes, whatever you want to call it. On this day, we will be focusing on how to EQ your home recorded snare drum. If you want to hear what the mix sounds like, go back to day 1. But if you've made it to this day, I assume you know what the mix sounds like. Let's just take a quick listen to the drums and then we'll get into the snare drum in this mix. Yeah, so these drums were recorded all in my home studio, and drums are probably the most difficult thing to record at your home, just because the amount of mics you need, the amount of knowledge you need about mic placement. If you have any questions on that sort of thing, just ask me. I'm happy to answer any questions. But today we're just going to focus on EQing the snare drum. But first, if this video helps you out at all, please remember to like and subscribe so I can continue to grow my small channel, which will allow me to help out more home studio engineers that need assistance. As I showed you on day 6, we have a snare top microphone, a snare bottom microphone, and a snare sample, and they are all ending up at the snare bus. Now, just like with kick drum, there are some key frequencies to know, and with snare drum, it's actually pretty simple as well, just like it was with kick. So everything from about 3K on up sounds really pleasing on a snare drum. And the low end frequencies that you're going to like are anywhere between 160 and 200 hertz. The frequencies that you're typically going to be cutting on snare drum are anywhere from about 300 to 600 hertz. And those are the boxy or cardboard frequencies. You might have heard those terms before. So let's check out the snare top microphone first, and we'll see what we did to that. I actually chose the Pro Q2 for this mix. I will usually go with the SSL like I do with kick drum, but I just needed to get a little bit more surgical with this snare drum. So let's check out what we did here. So first, I will just bypass this EQ and show you a little bit of a before and after. So what we are doing here is just sort of emphasizing those nice sounding frequencies while ducking out some of those nasty sounding areas. So just like with the kick drum, we have about an 8K shelf boost here, and it's really big, almost a 12 dB boost. And this is the real nice sounding high end of the snare drum. That's very similar to what we did with our kick and almost at the exact same frequency. And then here we also have about a 4K boost, which is just giving some more attack to the snare. Yeah, and you can get away with a bell boost anywhere from about 3K to maybe 6 or 7K. And this is usually the case for, rock snare drum. It's just really a matter of what area sounds nice to you. Now, our snare drum can't just be all top end, right? It has to have some bottom to it, some power. And for my boosts, I like to go somewhere between 160 and 200. I will tell you now, most people just boost their snare drums at 200. I tend to like it a little bit lower. So I'll give you a little taste of what this area sounds like. Maybe we'll boost it up for you. That would be too much, but you get the idea. If I took this bell boost out, our snare would be all top end and would just lack that low end that we love in our snare drum. So if I disable this, it's just too thin. Now we also have some dip outs around 300 and 500. And like I said, these are the cardboard or boxy areas. This 300 is a little bit of the mud. So I'll boost these up and you can hear what I'm talking about. Yeah, that 500 is where a lot of the ring comes from. If your snare drum just has too much ring, or maybe you didn't have a dampener on there or a moon gel, you might get a lot of ring. So this is where we can go and cut some of that out. And then again, this 300's a little bit of the mud. So now you should have a feel for the key frequencies, at least for your top snare mic, of where you should be boosting and cutting. And one thing I want to say is don't be afraid to really go big with these moves. We really have to be aggressive with our EQs in the home recording world, especially because we don't always have the equipment to process or EQ these instruments on the way in. So a lot of times we have to make just much bigger moves than we see, the big guys making. Now, for your bottom snare mic, it's actually really similar, except we want a bunch more high end from our bottom snare. That's supposed to bring in the sound of the actual snares. After all, the mic is very close to those snares on the bottom of the snare drum. So on this EQ, we have very similar moves. Let's do a before and after. Yeah, and we're just, again, like I said, bringing that snare sound out, the sound of the actual snares, the rattle of them. So here we have an 8K shelf boost. What a surprise. A very big one. And we're boosting around 6K as well here. And on the bottom end for the bottom snare mic, I like to boost a little bit above 200 hertz. So around 220 is where I'm looking to get a little extra bottom out of this snare mic. Of course, it's not going to have as much low end as the top microphone, but we can add some additional bottom to this snare mic to increase the low end of the snare sound as a whole. So now we can hear what they sound like together. And we can add in our sample. All right, and just like the kick bus, we do have some additional EQ on the snare bus. And again, we're using the Pultec to add some coloration. And with this, we're just doing another 8K boost here. So let's do a before and after of that. Yeah, and it's a really hefty boost there. And again, these buses are constantly tweaked throughout the mix. Like I said in the last video, as I get the, bass drum sound and I start adding in the rest of the instruments like the bass and guitars, I might find that my drums are lacking in certain areas. So I'll just go to, the buses and make some changes on the bus instead of, going to the individual snare tracks and tweaking all those. all over again. That's it for day 8. Tomorrow we will be taking a look at the key frequency areas for your toms, and I hope to see you back for that. Happy mixing, guys. Hey guys, if you like this video, be sure to download your free Ultimate Home Studio Mix Guide with your go-to EQ and compression settings for all your tracks. And also be sure to register for my free online mix training that I hold a couple times a week so that you can learn how to make radio quality music from your home without breaking the bank.